السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
Let's wait a few minutes and then we can start. Inshallah, we'll start off with Zakah and then just want something here. Inshallah, we'll start off with Zakah and then go on to Arabic. And by the end of this week, we'll have a timetable as to what we want to do. Bi-idhnillah. So I'll give you specific times. Inshallah. Anybody made notes yesterday?
Yes, I did.
You did. 7, 11, 36. What's today? The 17th. Those asking how to enroll, you can just on the YouTube link. Please use that link, leave your name and number, and inshallah we can add you to the group and send you the links. Okay. We can start. Right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inshallah, today we'll be starting off with Kitabu Zakah. Zakah is compulsory charity. And you find that generally in the books of Fiqh, Zakah is referred to as compulsory charity. And in our terms today, we generally use Sadaqah for voluntary charity. However, at times the word Sadaqah may also be used for compulsory charity. Zakah, it's an Arabic word, and you find that it has, whenever the ulama define these terms, they first give you what is the linguistic meaning. So az-zakatu, then you find they say lughatan. What's the meaning of it in the Arabic language itself? It means annama wa tahara was zakah. Zakah literally could mean to purify and also to grow. That's why one of the meanings of this zakah is that it purifies your wealth and it makes your wealth grow, both metaphorically as well as where you can see it tangibly. Zakah is compulsory, as we find many pieces of evidence in the Quran, many ayat, many ahadith, and ijma'. I'll mention one each for you, and then we get into the conditions. As for the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. This is an order. And generally you learn in Usul al-Fiqh that when you find that Allah is ordering, giving an order, that generally means that this act of worship or this thing that is being ordered is compulsory. So وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ is an order to establish or perform salah, وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ, and give your zakah. So that's one of the verses from the Quran. So if somebody asks you, why is zakah compulsory? Firstly, you can say Allah says this in the Quran. Secondly, there are many ahadith. One of the hadith famous, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Bunya al-Islamu ala khams." Islam is built on 5 pillars. Firstly, shahadati an la ilaha illallah wa anni rasulullah. This is the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam speaking. First pillar of Islam is the shahadatain. Bear witness there is no one worthy of worship except Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his messenger. Wa iqam as-salah. Second pillar is to perform or establish salah, and third pillar is to give your zakah. Wa ita is zakah. Then wa sawmi Ramadan wa hajji baytillahi al-haram. And the third evidence to show that it's compulsory is what's known as al-ijma'. Ijma' means when the scholars of a particular time, they all agree, there is consensus on a ruling. And as you learn later on, inshallah, that ijma' is hujjah, and it's one of the pieces of evidence as you'll take in usulul fiqh. As for zakah, the definition of zakah in the Sharia, and I'm just going to digress a little bit here. Why do you have a definition in the Arabic language and then definition in the Sharia and then what's called an urfi definition? Is because firstly, we know the Arabic language came first, then the Sharia came. So at times, they may be a meaning in the Arabic language and it's the same meaning in the Sharia. At times the meaning in the Arabic language may not be as deep as what's in the Sharia. So for example, in the Sharia we said zakah, one of in The Arabic language, we said one of the meanings of zakah is growth and purification. However, the Shari'i definition, the scholars have many different definitions. One of them is that tamliku malin makhsus, which literally means to give ownership of specific wealth لطائفة مخصوصة, to a specific group of people بشروط مخصوص, with specific conditions. Why so much ambiguity, and why is it such that it's not that clear? Because you find that there's many different conditions under that. So when you go through this, you'll see that tamliku malin makhsus. Is zakah compulsory in every single type of wealth? Do you have to give zakah on every single thing? As you'll see, there's certain exceptions to the rules. Do you have to give zakah to every single person? You'll see that there's only certain people who are deserving of zakah. And you'll also learn that at times there may be certain conditions where a person may have wealth, etc., but he may not be obliged to pay his zakah because there is a certain mani or something, a condition that he doesn't fulfill. The ulama generally start off with shurutu zakah or shurutu wujub zakah. What are the conditions that make zakah compulsory upon a person? The first is al-Islam. So a Muslim is somebody who is ordered to pay zakah. So if you are living, let's say you live in a country and they've got the people who are ruling are Muslims. They take zakah from the Muslims, and as for those who are non-Muslims, it's not compulsory upon them to pay their zakah. Then you find there's a mas'ala that the scholars debate. I don't want to go into it. In Arabic, it's هل الكفار مخاطبون بفروع الشريعة. What's the non-Muslims, what's required of them? To put it in short, it's firstly required for them to accept Islam, then they can do all the other acts of worship, so they are accepted. So firstly, they accept Islam, then they perform their salah and their zakah, etc. So if somebody asks you, first condition for zakah to be compulsory upon a person, you say that he should be a Muslim. So when he's a Muslim, then that's when he gives zakah. Second condition they mention is what's called al-hurriya. Hurriya is freedom. So in the olden days, you find that there was slavery. When Islam came, slavery was already present. Today, we don't have any slavery. One of the reasons why they say that a person should be free is because a slave did not own anything, or a slave does not own. So how can you make him pay this compulsory charity if he doesn't own it in the first place? And as we mentioned, Islam came with many rulings when it comes to the slaves, and we find that there was great encouragement, or there was many ayat, many ahadith where Allah and His Messenger encouraged those who had slaves to free them for the sake of Allah. And you find there was great reward mentioned, especially in the akhirah as well as in the dunya. Now, second condition, a person should be free. He shouldn't be a slave, and that doesn't apply today. Everybody is free. Say hurriyatun wa islamun wa milku nisabin. The third is what's called nisab. What's nisab? Nisab is a threshold. So if you have $1 in your pocket, for example, do you have to pay zakah on that $1? No. Why? Because it hasn't reached a certain threshold. We'll go through the different thresholds, inshallah. In one of the hadith, the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says, when speaking about crops, he says, لَيْسَ فِي مَا دُونَ خَمْسِ أَوْسُقٍ صَدَقَةٍ. There's no zakah when a person has less than 5 awsuq. One wasaq is 60 sa'an. 60 sa'an is 60 sa'as. So a sa', one sa' is a unit of measurement, like how we have kgs and pounds today. So in the olden days, they would measure with what's called a sa'. What's one sa' is equivalent to 4 handfuls. So you fill 4 handfuls, that's equivalent to 1 sa'. So the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying that any person who's been growing crops and seeds, etc., as long as he has less than 300 of these sa'as, then he doesn't have to pay zakah on it. So what does that show you? It shows you that there's a certain threshold you have to reach. When it comes to silver, it's mi'atay dirham, which is 200 dirhams, and we'll take its equivalent in paper money, inshallah. What I want you to understand is one of the conditions for zakah to be compulsory upon a person is they should have reached a certain threshold when it comes to their wealth. Somebody who has $10 in his pocket, he doesn't have to pay zakah on that $10 because he hasn't reached the threshold. So they say, حرية وإسلام وملك نصاب واستقراره. This nisab, let's say a person owns, for example, $100,000. He's reached nisab. Does he have to pay zakah on this 100,000? We say that, does he own it fully? Because at times you may find that there's certain organizations, for example, that may have money, but nobody has full ownership of it. And one of the examples of this is a waqf or an endowment. So for example, if somebody gave a waqf, a building, they made it an endowment. What's waqf? In brief, you have an asset. Let's say you have a building, and you say that I have given this as waqf. It means you've given it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then let's say you're renting it, you're renting this office space, and you say whatever money comes from this, I will give it to a good cause. For example, let's say to the orphans. So this money that's coming from this waqf, let's say every year you collect rentals of $1 million. Do you have to pay zakah on this 1 million or not? Here you don't have to pay zakah on that 1 million. Why? You don't own it fully. You've given it as a waqf. The orphans don't own it fully. It still hasn't come. Nobody owns it fully. That's one of the examples. Another example they give is, in the olden days, as we mentioned, there was slavery. One of the ways in which a person could free himself is if he bought his freedom. So the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that there's no zakah on the wealth of a slave. And those days the slaves used to gather money. Let's say they agreed, for example, after 5 years, I'll pay you 100,000 to buy my freedom. That's because slavery was there. People wanted to escape from it. So this guy's collected after a year, he's got 100,000. Does he pay zakah on it? No, because he doesn't own it fully. As mentioned in the hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's no zakah on it. So you've got, as I mentioned, حرية وإسلام وملك نصاب واستقراره. This nisab should be owned fully. Then it says ومضي الحول. The whole year should pass. Here we're talking about the lunar year, not the year we take by the Gregorian calendar. So the lunar year should pass. What does that mean? If you get $100 million today, and tomorrow you spent it, let's say you bought yourself a house worth 100 million. Here you don't have to pay zakah on that because you've used it to buy something that you need. When do you pay zakah? If this money has reached the threshold of nisab and you've held it for 1 year. Since we're taking the Hanafi madhab, I'll explain it to you a little bit more. And when we take the other madhahib, inshallah, I'll explain to you a little bit more. In the Hanafi madhab, they look at the beginning and the end of the year. So for example, let's say your zakah year starts in Ramadan, okay? If you hold 100,000 in Ramadan last year, and then let's say you went down to 0 during the year. So 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, then you went to 200,000, then you came back. They only look at the beginning and the end of the year. So Ramadan this year, Ramadan last year. Did you have nisab during that time? Whether you went below the threshold or not is besides the point according to them. You had nisab at the beginning, nisab at the end, you'll pay zakah. So as we mentioned, again, I'm going to go over it. These 5 conditions are generally agreed upon by all the schools, when I mean the schools, I'm talking about the 4 A'immah, the 4 Imams and their madhahib. So the Hanafi madhab, Shafi'i madhab, Maliki madhab, and Hanbali madhab. You might find some nuances here and then we'll go through them, inshallah. What are they? Islam, a person is a Muslim. Hurriya, they are free. The reason why I'm speaking about hurriya and slavery, etc., is because when you open the books, you're going to read hurriya and you're going to say, what is this? So now you understand. When they say وَمِلْكُ nisab, a person should own that nisab, he should reach that threshold. وَاسْتِقْرَارُهُ, it should be full ownership. وَمُضِيُّ الْحَوْلِ, and the year should pass. There's another 2 conditions that the Hanafis add. They say al-bulughu wal-aql. A person should have reached the age of puberty and they should be somebody who is sane. So they say that if a child has wealth, and how can a child have wealth? Let's say You have a 4-year-old child and his father was a multi-millionaire and he died, and this child inherits from him. So he's got wealth that's more than nisab. The other conditions of zakah are there where he's got to pay zakah. Here they say that because he's a child, he doesn't have to pay. And they use the hadith where the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Rufi al-qalamu an thalath," which literally means the pen of taklif, where a person will be taken to task. It's raised. A person is not taken to task if they're one of 3 people. One of them he mentions is وَعَنِ الصَّبِيِّ حَتَّى يَبْلُغْ, a child until he becomes of the age of puberty. Hence you find the child is encouraged to perform salah, for example, but if he doesn't, then he's not sinful. If he does it, then he's rewarded. So they also say that when it comes to zakah, it's not compulsory when it comes to the wealth of a child. Also, they say a person who is not sane, let's say mentally disturbed, etc., they may have wealth. Let's say a person was a big businessman. He made millions and billions. And all of a sudden, may Allah protect us all, he loses his mind, let's say at the age of 40. Here, the Hanafi madhab says that in those millions and billions, he doesn't have to pay zakah on it. Why? Because in the hadith that carries on, وَعَنِ الْمَجْنُونِ حَتَّى يَفِيقْ, this pen of taklif is lifted upon the mad person, the person who is insane, until he becomes sane again. So to recap, inshallah, we said that zakah, it has a linguistic meaning, which means growth and purification. Shar'i meaning, which means you've got to make a certain piece of wealth or certain wealth. You've got to transfer its ownership to a certain group of people, and there are certain conditions. And we're going through these conditions one by one. Then we mentioned the adillah, pieces of evidence from the Quran. One of them, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. From the Sunnah, Bunya al-Islamu ala khamsin, that hadith, and ijma', consensus of the scholars. After that, conditions of zakah. We mentioned that Islam, a person should be a Muslim. Hence, we don't take zakah from those who are non-Muslims. That is compulsory charity. Hurriya, a person should be free. Milku nisab, he should own nisab. He should reach a certain threshold when it comes to, as we'll take gold and silver, or if he's farming livestock, animals, or if he's farming crops, etc. And we'll go through all that in detail. Milku nisab wa istiqraruhu, full ownership, wa mudiyul hawl, the year should pass. And we said the Hanafis add another 2 conditions where the person should have reached the age of puberty and they should be sane. Inshallah, we'll stop there today. What I want you to realize and understand is, under all these, what I've just mentioned, these conditions, now you've got smaller and smaller and smaller masail. So for example, when we're speaking about nisab, what happens if a person is in debt and the nisab goes down? What happens if a person's taken a loan from somebody? Do they pay zakah on that? So what I've chosen to do is to take the masail in order such that we go firstly with what's agreed upon roughly between everybody. So you find these conditions, they're generally agreed upon. Then we'll go to what they call zakatu bahimatil an'am, which is your livestock, your camels, your goats, your cows. Then we'll go to hubub wa thimar, which are your seeds and foodstuffs, etc. Then you'll go to gold and silver. Paper money is also included, as well as stock. And then you'll go to zakatul fitr. After we've taken these masail, these big masail, chunks of them, then we'll go to the small nitty-gritties. So for example, when it comes to a mas'ala in dayn, when it comes to, let's say, a husband and wife, they agreed on a mahr. So for example, let's say they agreed on 100,000, but the husband's agreed to pay it. He hasn't given her now, he's agreed to pay it later on, let's say after 5 years, they get married, etc. Does she have to pay zakah on that mahr or not? Those are all masail that come later on. What's important is learn the big masail, learn the usul, and then you're able to build on these. Also, if you learn this, inshallah, you'll have a good and strong foundation. Another important thing to mention, generally when I'm quoting the Hanafi madhab, I told you I'm taking from Al-Quduri, Al-Hidayah, Al-Ikhtiyar. Those 3, at times there may be a difference inside the madhab, unless it's a mas'ala that's quite prominent. That's the only time. If it's a mas'ala that's quite prominent, I'll mention that debate between them. Otherwise, I generally won't. So if there's any questions anybody wants to ask, you can ask. Did you guys understand? Omar?
Ustad, let's say, for example, if I have a certain amount of money and I am Malik and Isab on it, and I pay my zakat against that money for this year, let's say, for example, for this Ramzan, and I still have some amount of money on which I am still Malik and Isab for the next year, do I have to pay zakat again on the next year on that money which I have already paid this year?
When the next year comes, so for example, let's say you're holding $100,000 at home and the year passes and you pay zakah on it. What's zakah on that? 2.5%, 2,500. So now you left with 97,500. You've just left it in your cupboard, example. And then the next year comes, yes, you pay zakah on that money. And then it will go a little bit down. So you pay 2.5% on that. Then you've left it in your cupboard. And the third year comes and you're still holding this up, you pay zakat on that. You've got to remember that when you look at zakah, one of the reasons for this zakah, well, there's many different reasons. Obviously, one of the reasons is for the society as a whole to function. You need that movement of money. It's something ordained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He decreed that. And what Islam, or one of the things that you find that is encouraged in Islam, is for you to go out and use that wealth, try and grow it for a good cause. Hence, you find, for example, interest is haram. Why is interest haram? Because you own $1 million, for example, you're not adding to the economy, you're not doing anything with that money, you're making money just for the fact that you are blessed with money. So you say, I give you a loan of 1 million and you pay 1% a year. That's why that is prohibited. Why? One of the reasons, yes, we know it's a major sin, but one of the other reasons is you're not allowing that money to circulate in the economy such that it's doing something. You're bringing some sort of beneficial service, or you're building an asset, or you're employing people. No, you're just sitting back and giving this guy, saying pay on that. So that's one of the reasons. They want the money to circulate between all the people, and that's how you find communities survive. Khaybar?
Let's say you pass the threshold.
Your voice is muffled. A little bit louder.
Is it still bad?
Now it's better.
Let's say you pass the threshold, the 5,000 threshold, and you pass it. You pay on the above that threshold or below it, like all of it.
No, all of it. So, for example, let's say and inshallah, when we take gold and silver, the reason why I never give you a lump sum to say zakah is this much today is because the scholars differ as 200 dirhams, silver coins. What is it equivalent to today? Gold, what is it equivalent to today? So I want to go through that so you people can understand. That's why I never give you a round figure. But let's say, for example, your zakah is the nisab is 10,000. Okay, and you've got 15,000. Now I know when you're speaking about tax in the countries, I'm not talking about zakah, they'll tell you, for example, the first 10,000 is yours, keep, we're not going to touch, and then after that we're going to tax you. No, when it comes to zakah, compulsory charity, you own that 10,000, you pay zakah on it. For example, it's nisab. You own 15,000, you pay zakah on 15,000, the whole thing. But again, as I mentioned to you, you're holding that wealth and you hold it for a year. So let's say somebody, he earns 20,000 a month, but he needs to pay rental for the villa he lives in. He needs to pay rental for his car. He needs to pay school fees for his children. He needs to do this, and this. And at the end of the month, he's broke, or he has less than nisab. Here, he won't have to pay zakah. Alam Gheer, you had a question?
Yeah, Sheikh, you answered my second question, but my first question is regarding the qarz hasana. If we are giving it to relatives as some amount, and the chances are less that we will get it back.
Yeah.
So what is the nisab should be applied?
You're asking about which nisab. Inshallah, we'll take that. It comes under zakatul dain.
Yeah.
So leave that mas'ala for now. Remember, here is not a fatwa session. Here is, I want you to learn. So if you learn slowly but surely, eventually you reach a stage where you will then be able to extract a ruling. So take your foundation and go step by step. Last question, Umar.
My question is Sadaqah Jariyah is part of Zakah?
No, so zakah, here we're talking about compulsory charity. You have to pay. What's sadaqah jariyah? Sadaqah jariyah is where you give some sort of voluntary charity, and this charity carries on. That's why a lot of the ulama who explain the hadith of sadaqah jariyah, they mention that is waqf, where you've got an asset and it carries on benefiting. So what's the difference between a normal sadaqah and waqf? Normal sadaqah, if I had to give somebody $10 and they bought a meal, for example, okay? Finished, that $10 is used. He's bought his meal and it's finished. He can't use it again. So sadaqah jariyah means this charity is continuous, so it carries on. And the only way it carries on is if you buy an asset, or you have a tree, for example, let's count it as an asset. It carries on giving, it gives fruit. And you say from that, or you have a well, and this well carries on giving water. You have a borehole, it carries on giving water. So you say, I've made this as a sadaqah jariyah, as a continuous charity that carries on. So that's the difference. As for zakah, zakah is compulsory charity. And as we'll see, zakah is in certain types of wealth. So not everything do you pay zakah on. So if a person is not dealing in cars, but they have I don't know what's the price of a Bugatti, $1 million, for example, $1 million Bugatti, and they're not dealing, they haven't bought to buy and sell, they won't pay zakah on that Bugatti, and we'll take the evidence for that, inshallah. Any more questions before we carry on to Arabic? I think for this lesson, 30 minutes is good before we carry on.
Zakah is compulsory. Zakah is compulsory. For zakah is charity, and it is broken down into two groups, voluntary and involuntary.
Your voice is muffled. Your voice is muffled. Speak closer to your mic.
So zakah is compulsory. For zakah is it can be broken down into two groups, voluntary and involuntary. I'm wrong here.
Hold on. When we're talking about zakah in fiqh, we're talking about compulsory charity. At times in the Quran or in the hadith, the word sadaqah may be used, and this sadaqah is also referring to compulsory charity. Example, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُم بِهَا. This خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ sadaqah is speaking about compulsory charity. How do you know? You go to the tafsir, you go to the explanation of the hadith, etc. In our terms, generally, we find that it's become agreed upon that when you say zakah, you're talking about compulsory charity, and when you say sadaqah, you're talking about voluntary charity.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. I think no other questions, so we carry on. What I want you guys to do is to make notes, summarize your notes, because I'm going to ask you, inshallah, tomorrow. I will ask you. For those who want to join, so right now we're teaching, but inshallah, after the lesson, I'll add you guys. Those who've left their numbers, just put your country code, because I'm not sure which country that is. Right, we carry on with our Arabic where we left off. We took this yesterday.
Yes,
Right,
Sheikh.
Khaybar. Bismillah, start, read the exercise. What do they want from you, and start.
التدريب
Louder, please.
التدريب 5.
التدريب الخامس. Khamsa means 5. Al-Khamis, 5th. So here, the 5th exercise.
يقرأ الكلمات والنصف. Read the words and the passage.
Yes.
ثم اكتب الكلمات في الفراغات. Then write the words in the appropriate places.
So you read the words and translate for us. Louder.
هواء تلوث
تلوث. There's a shadda there. تلوث.
تلوث. I don't know what that means. ما معنى?
You weren't here. طيب. علم غير read. If you're not here, hold on. If you're not here, even though we don't edit the lessons, you'll find this whole live stream on YouTube unedited. So go through it. يلا علم غير. تلوث.
تلوث pollution.
أحسنت.
بعيد. Oh, continue. What shall I do?
بعيد. Carry on. What's it?
Far. بعيد far. مريض patient. البحر.
No, yeah, مريض, patient, you mean a sick person. Okay, carry on.
Sick person. البحر, ocean or sea. سعيد, happy. الطبيب, doctor. الساعة, time.
So I told you, generally the default is it's got a dhamma. It would be الساعة. طيب خيبر, read number 1. Let's go.
أخي إبراهيم مهندس في شركة للسيارات. The brother of Ibrahim is an engineer in the company of the cars.
طيب, hold on. Who else is here? طيب, عمر المدني. What's the meaning of that?
نعم.
What's the meaning of what he read? Is it correct or not?
My brother Ibrahim.
أحسن. My brother Ibrahim. You see? أخي. أخون, brother. أخي, my brother Ibrahim. Right? Translate, Omar.
I lost my screen.
No, Omar الثاني. المدني.
My brother Ibrahim. And I think my brother Ibrahim, who is engineering.
أحسنت. He is an engineer.
في شركة, it means in the company. As
Lis. Look, there's 2 lams. Why 2 lams? Because you eventually, it was as-sayyara, alif lam. Then when you want to add a lam there, you drop that first alif. So it will be 2 lams. Lis-sayyarati. So my brother Ibrahim is an engineer. You could say in the car company.
شركة السيارات.
أحسن. علم غير.
Cars company.
أحسن. علم غير.
وهو يسكن في بيت في مدينة كبيرة, and he lives in a house in a very big city. بيت إبراهيم بعيد عن الشركة. The house of Ibrahim is far from the company.
Hold on. I asked you a question. بيت, what's بيت? مضاف, correct?
بيت is مضاف.
أحسنت. إبراهيم is مضاف إليه. Why didn't you say بيت إبراهيمي? Why didn't they say بيت إبراهيمي?
Sheikh, I remember that بيت إبراهيم.
Yeah, بيت إبراهيم. Why? Why not? If it was بيت محمدين, it wouldn't be محمدا. Why?
مضاف
إليه. مضاف إليه is always مجرور. طيب, who knows? Who's that?
ممنوع.
طيب, ممنوع من الصرف. خيبة.
إبراهيم.
Non-Arab names, they are only Ibrahim.
أحسن. So why is this? The word Ibrahim is not originally Arabic. So say علم عجمي. بيت إبراهيم. أحسنت. بعيد عن الشركة is far from the company. طيب, carry on. علم غير.
يذهب إبراهيم بالسيارة الساعة السادسة.
يذهب, again, look nicely.
يذهب إبراهيم بالسيارته الساعة السادسة.
I told you, if you've got alif lam, you don't have a ضمير. So not بسيارته. بسيارته. There's no alif lam there.
Yeah. يذهب إبراهيم بسيارته الساعة السادسة صباحا. Ibrahim goes to the company by a car at 6.
بسيارته. بسيارته.
Yeah,
ضمير.
with his car. Yeah. Ibrahim goes by his car to the company, also by his car in the morning, 6 o'clock.
أحسنت.
Yeah. ويكون في الشركة الساعة السابعة, and he arrives in the company at 7.
Yeah.
ويكون في البيت الساعة 4 and he arrives at home at 4 o'clock at Asr time.
Ahsan. So كان يكون literally means to be. So you could say he is at home.
He's at home.
Ahsan. طيب, who wants to read?
I'll read.
Right, carry on.
إبراهيم لا يحب هذه البيت هذه المدينة مدينة الكبيرة. إبراهيم مدينة الكبيرة. Ibrahim does not love this big city. وأسرته لا تحب البيت الذي تسكن
فيه.
So he
أسرة. What's an أسرة?
I do not know the meaning of Usra.
أسرة is a family. Ahsant. أسرته, his family, لا تحبه, they don't like a house which they're living in. Ahsant. Which he's
living in it.
Which they are living in, yes.
إبراهيم سعيد وأسرته مريضة أيضا.
Are you sure?
I added the word with I thought it was correct.
طيب, عمر المدني, إبراهيم. عمر
family.
إبراهيم, وش تحط هناك? What you putting here?
إبراهيم سعيد.
ليش سعيد؟ طيب, Amira, do you want to try? If not, no problem, we'll ask someone else. طيب, عالم غير.
شيخ إبراهيم مريض.
أحسنت, مريض. How can he be happy while his family is sick? إبراهيم مريض. إبراهيم is sick. أسرته مريضة أيضا. His family is also sick. طيب, عالم غير, carry on. الأسرة
تزور الطبيب كثيرا.
الأسرة تزور.
الأسرة تزور الطبيب كثيرا. The family visits.
خيبر. This I taught you. الأسرة تزور. نحو.
الأسرة تزور. So there'll be فاعل.
Yeah. تزور. Who do they visit?
تزور
Doctor.
The doctor. Yeah. طبيب, طبيبة, وطبيبي.
طبيبة. الطبيبة
مفعول به. أحسنت.
مفعول به.
الأسرة تزور الطبيبة كثيرا. And for those starting off, just remind me before we finish that. I must draw that for you guys. Okay. I must explain to you فعل فاعل مفعول جملة اسمية. Remind me in case I forget. الأسرة تزور الطبيبة كثيرا. The family visits the doctor a lot. طيب, عالم غير, carry on.
Yeah. 3 ترك إبراهيم.
Yeah, Amira Muhammad, you had a question. Want to read?
Yeah, I was volunteering to read.
Okay, Bismillah, read.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ترك إبراهيم وأسرته المدينة الكبيرة. Ibrahim and his family left the big city. انطلقت الأسرة الآن إلى مدينة.
See this word nicely.
انتقلت الأسرة الآن إلى مدينة قريبة من الشركة. His family moved now to a city closer to the company. ليس فيها تلوث وضوضاء وازدحام. There is not in it pollution, noise and traffic. وفيها شاطئ جميل, and in it is a beautiful seashore.
Beach.
وهواء beach وهواء نقي, and clean air.
Ahsanti, well done. Last part, who wants to read? عمر المدني, يلا اقرأ.
يعمل إبراهيم الآن في
طيب read with the حركة. يعمل إبراهيم. ها؟
يعمل إبراهيم الآن في الشركة وهو
translate.
Ibrahim is doing now.
عمل يعمل.
يعمل is doing, no? Doing?
Working. They're speaking about work. يعمل إبراهيم الآن في الشركة. Ibrahim is now works in the company.
Ibrahim is now work in the company. وهو I think happy. Yeah? No?
Yeah.
وهو سعيد.
If any of you disagree, you can speak, but I'm sure that's correct. وهو سعيد.
وهو سعيد وتسكن الأسرة في بيت
كبير
في بيت كبير
وجميل.
وجميل
جميل. أحسنت.
وقريب من وقريب من الشاطئ.
I don't know why they gave you a fatha here, because they didn't give you an alif lam. So min shati, it can't be. It's either min shati or min shati, but min shati al-bahri. طيب, خيبر, I want to ask you a question. وتسكن الأسرة, we agreeing here that that's فعلا فاعل. فاعل there is مرفوع كتضم أسرة في حرف جر. Take me after that بيت كبير وجميل وقريب. Give me the إعراب of that. Why do they all have kasras? And 2 kasras to be specific.
In the big house and beautiful.
إعراب.
Whenever wa'il comes, it carries on the i'rab.
Whenever what comes?
Wow, and.
في بيت كبير, but there's
That's
another
مضاف إليه.
Yeah, you could actually say that.
Sorry, not مضاف إليه.
No, it's not مضاف. This is حرف جر في, and بيت is hold on, yeah, but مجرور, and then كبير, you've got here is you describing it, and your موصوف صفة must agree in its إعراب. 2 كسرات, بيت كبير, and also it's بيت جميل, and also بيت قريب من شاطئ. Someone had their hand up. Amira, you want to say something?
I was just going to say, is it not موصوف and صفة, but you already said that.
موصوف and صفة. أحسنت. طيب, carry on. وقريب من شاطئ البحر. خيبر, last sentence, finish off.
إبراهيم يحب هذه المدينة. Ibrahim loves this city. وأسرته يحب هذه المدينة.
وأسرته.
And his family.
Read again. وأسرته.
وأسرته تحب هذه المدينة.
أحسنت. So his family, why تحب? Because as you told before, is feminine. أسرة, the word أسرة is feminine because you've got تا مربوطة around تا. وأسرته تحب هذه المدينة. أحسنت. وهي سعيدة.
أيضا. And they are.
So it's referring to the family, so we would translate it as they are. أحسنت. طيب, أجب عن الأسئلة التالية. Let's ask. ما مهنة إبراهيم خيبر؟
مهندس. إبراهيم مهندس.
أحسنت. عالم غير. أين تسكن أسرته؟
في مدينة كبيرة.
أحسنت. متى يذهب إبراهيم إلى الشركة؟ أميرة.
الساعة 6 صباحا.
أحسنتي. عمر from India. لماذا ترك إبراهيم المدينة الكبيرة؟
إبراهيم لا يحب المدينة الكبيرة.
Yeah, he doesn't like it. Did he give you a reasoning also?
Because he was ill in the city.
Yeah, he doesn't like it, but also they moved because of this. ليس فيها, because it's got, you
Marid.
see, it's got تلوث and it's got ضوضاء, it's got noise and it's got traffic. So that's some of the reasons why he left the big city. Am I correct? هل الأسرة سعيدة الآن عمر الثاني في المدينة؟
لا لا
لماذا لا؟ هل الأسرة سعيدة الآن؟ انتقلوا الآن خلاص.
they're not sick.
No, هل الأسرة سعيدة? Are they happy now? They've moved.
Oh yes, yeah, happy. نعم.
نعم أحسنت. عمر from
أحسنت.
India. أين بيت إبراهيم
أحسنت
الآن؟
sick. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, that works.
أين بيت إبراهيم الآن؟ عمر India.
في المدينة الكبيرة.
Where's a different answer?
في بيت كبيرة وجميل وقريب من شاطئ البحر.
Yeah, ماشي. You could go any. That's fine. See, انتقلت الأسرة الآن إلى مدينة قريبة من الشركة ليس فيها ضوضاء وازدحام وفيها شاطئ جميل و. So if they ask you where, you could say where it is. Exactly, it's beautiful and near the seaside and near the الشركة. أحسنتم, well done, all of you. طيب الصل, these exercises, you guys must do them by yourselves. Here, one of the things they're teaching you is how to write. So look here, ba and ha and ra. How do you write? And we've taken reading and writing before, and we might take it again with you guys, because a ha, for example, this ha, if it comes in the middle of the word, there's a way to write it. So bahrun, here you need to fill it out. Alam Ghir, you have something to say?
Sheikh, I have a question regarding the mistake I did. Al-usratu tazuru tabiba. Can you please repeat it? Then the self noun.
Okay, can I show you on the whiteboard after I finish, because it will make more sense.
Oh,
Inshallah. Okay. Then uktub, again, uktub, these are all lessons when it comes to writing. So you guys need to write. And it's also teaching you vocabulary. They've given you pictures and they want you to write. So qarya, what do you think qarya is here? Where do you think it is? Hunaka is speaking about the. Qitar is a train. Jawaz safar, process of elimination if you're not sure of any. And here you've got sil بين كل كلمتين لتصبح تعبيرا. So here they've given you two words and they want you to join between them, so you get a ta'bir in this context is referring to you're getting like a full word. It's not really a sentence, it's like half a sentence. So shati'ul bahri, ma ra'yuka, for example, etc. Then you've got Khaybar will mute you. Then you've got رتب الكلمات لتصبح جملة. رتب from ترتيب, to put in order. So here they've given you the full sentence, but they haven't given it to you in order. So for example, if this word is supposed to come first, it's come second, etc. So you guys have got to finish this. It's going to help you to think, pick up vocab and write. So أنا أستاذ في الجامعة. Look at that. أنا is here أستاذ في الجامعة. طيب. انسخ is literally to copy. نسخ is where you copy. That's why when you got copy and paste, they speak about naskh and lasq. Lasq is to stick, to paste. Then ضع علامة خطأ or علامة X على الكلمات التي كتبت خطأ. Put an X next to the words that have been written with a mistake, and then write it correctly. So they've given you here سعيد سنوات سوداء سماء. Now can you see sanawat is written incorrectly? Why? They didn't join the sin to the nun. So it's all writing practice. Hadi, huna, hunaka, and hawa. They've put a ha. When it comes in the middle of a word, that's when you write ha like that. Here it's not in the middle, it's at the beginning, so they've written it incorrectly and they want you to try and pick that out. Then here they're asking you to write the lawn. Lawn is the color, so they want you to write the correct color. أين السيارة, and then they give you the color. السيارة, certain color. أريد السجادة, and they've given you all this. Can you see? هذه حافلة, for example, صفراء, so yellow bus. أريد الساعة السوداء, black clock. After that, again, you got ضع علامة صح على الجملة المطابقة ثم اكتبها في الفراغ. Here they want you to put a tick next to the sentence that is written the same. So here they've given you a whole group of sentences, only 2 of them are written the same. So for example, متى حضرت إلى اليمن, متى حضرت من اليمن, متى حضر من اليمن, متى حضرت من اليمن. So can you see number 2 and number 4 are the same? So then you write the sentence. This is all to train you how to pick up the small differences between, for example, حضر and حضرت, between إلى and من, just to sharpen your guys' skills. صل بين حروف المجموعتين ثم اكتب الكلمات في الفراغ. Again, now they've given you a word and they've broken it into half. So all this is writing. You guys have to do it. Where you get stuck, come and ask. So قمصان. قمصان is the plural of shirts. And here you've got, what's this one? Alif and Sin, not ashur, not asmu, aswaq. Aswaq. Whatever you don't know, you guys, you must use Google. Those who are using chat, GPT, use it, and you'll find it quite interesting. Learn from wherever you can. Inshallah, we move on to the next module. If you notice, there's a difference between Book 1A. The modules are very short. Book 1B, the modules are a little bit longer, and you find that there's a lot more exercises. So we've reached about halfway. I think there's 2 or 3 more modules left, maybe. I need to check. And after that, bi'idhnillah, you guys, your level is very good, inshallah. We need to polish up our nahu and our grammar. Any questions here before I go to the whiteboard? No question? Okay, this is what I was explaining to you. Let's wait for that to load. Okay, look here. What was the sentence? عالم غير تذهب الأسرة. What was the sentence? عالم غير
الأسرة تزور الطبيب كثيرا.
الأسرة تزور الطبيب كثيرا. طيب. Sorry, I just write on the trackpad, so the writing is not that good. But anyway, الأسرة Umar. Just watch wherever you are. You're able to write Umar from India. So just be careful you don't write. Your mouse is moving as well as Khaybar, as well as. I don't know how to stop that. I think I have to just stop you guys from sharing. Anyway, for now, الأسرة. You said تزور. تزور. You had read الطبيب, okay? Anyway, just that's الطبيب, okay? Is this جملة اسمية or جملة فعلية عالم غير?
جملة اسمية.
اسمية. What is جملة اسمية?
It starts with the اسم الأسرة.
الاسم. So look, in Arabic you've got nouns, you've got verbs. A sentence that starts with a noun is generally going to be called جملة اسمية, which means it's a sentence that has started with a noun. And those sentences, their structure, they built with what's called a mubtada, a starting part of the sentence, and a khabar, the actual news or the actual piece of information from that sentence. So for example, you say هذا. هذا is mubtada. It started the sentence, but it hasn't given you the full benefit of the sentence. This is what? So you say هذا بيت. This is a house. The khabar is بيت. So here, this is جملة اسمية, we've agreed. So الأسرة, okay? Now, الأسرة مبتدا. What's the khabar? At times your khabar could be just another noun. At times your khabar could be made up of a jumla fi'liya itself. So then you start learning, for example. This تزور الطبيب on its own, it's fi'l, fa'il, and maf'ul bih. Okay? And this whole sentence together is the khabar for that. Now, when you've got a jumla fi'liya, which are those sentences that start with a verb, for example, here تزور, this fi'l and fa'il, we've taken it. We said fa'il is always marfu'. Marfu' generally will have a dhamma or something in place of a dhamma. And fa'il is the doer of the action. So here, who's doing the action? They. So it's hidden, it's a ضمير. Then you've got الطبيب. الطبيبة is مفعول به. Why? They were doing an action and then they went to somewhere. The action was done on that item or on that object. So here they went to the doctor. Did the doctor do anything in this sentence? No, they only went to him. So you'll find it as طبيبة مفعول به منصوب. You understand? عالم غير?
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
طيب, any questions? Any more? Stream? Any questions on the stream? Naeem is not here to check today, but I left one message. There's a few, but there's no questions. Okay. To end off, let's end off with... I make my notes before I come, and then sometimes I forget what I have to speak about. But you guys must get into a good habit when you start, inshallah, when you start teaching, when you start speaking. Try to have everything in your mind. It will come with practice. At times you'll forget, you'll make a mistake, it's okay. But learn it such that you can speak without a paper, or without notes. I find personally that generally those who speak without notes, firstly, it shows that they've put in effort in terms of learning their work, in terms of preparing, and especially when it comes to Islamic subjects, because anybody can read from a book. Also, it takes away from the, I feel, my opinion, takes away from the flavor of the actual lesson. So instead of somebody monotonously coming to just read and read and read, there's more expression and more speech. So that I would also encourage you. When it comes to fiqh, again, as I mentioned yesterday, that whatever works for you, whatever suits you, but one of the best ways I would suggest is if you write down your notes, summarize your notes, and then memorize that summary such that you understand it. So for example, in Zakah, we mentioned there's 5 conditions and those are agreed upon. Then there's 2 that the Hanafis mentioned. Why did I put a full stop there? I didn't say there's a difference of opinion here, there, and there, because I don't want you to take that. For now, the Hanafi madhab said these 7 conditions. Right, to finish off, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in Ad-Da' wa Ad-Dawa, Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah carries on speaking. In the few pages that we're taking today, he goes on to mention again about some of the harms of sin, and he mentions that sin harms a person always. There's always some sort of, obviously, spiritual harm to the heart, as well as harm to the physical being and the body. And the reason, again, why he's mentioning all this is because sometimes people say, I have good thoughts, I'll sin, and Allah is Ghafoor Rahim. Yes, Allah is Ghafoor Rahim, but you are expected to make an effort. And he goes on to mention some of the occasions where some people in the past, as mentioned in the Quran as well as the Hadith, they made a mistake once and they were punished for it. So if you look at Adam alayhi salam, our father, he was in Jannah, he was in the best place possible. And just because of one, I can't say one morsel, it's not mentioned one morsel, but let's say because he just ate from the tree that he wasn't supposed to. He didn't do anything else. He just ate from the tree. And because of that reason, he was taken out of Jannah completely. He was sent down on the earth. Look at Iblis. Iblis, he refused to make just one sajda. He refused to prostrate to Adam. What did he do? He didn't do anything else at the beginning. Just that one sin. And because of that, he was punished and thrown out till Qiyamah, till the end of days. He was given time and he promised Allah that he would misguide us. And he goes on to mention that you find that so many different nations, at times, yes, they were major sins they committed. They carried on committing these sins and they punished. The summary of this is, don't feel at times that, my sin is small, Allah won't punish me. Or don't feel that, Allah will forgive, and you carry on doing it, because you never know which sin you may be punished for, and your punishment may be severe. Hence, always try your best, always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect you and to keep you steadfast, to save you from the devil. And then he goes on to mention many different ahadith that speak about some of the punishments. And one of them he mentions is when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam went on Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, he was shown many things on that night. One of the things he was shown, or one of the things he saw, is people who were being punished, and it's mentioned they had nails like copper, or like nuhas. Nuhas, I'm sure, is copper, and they were scratching themselves, their faces as well as their bodies, and he was frightened because he saw many different types of punishments. And he was informed that these are the people who used to eat the flesh of others, i.e., they used to backbite. So look at that. Backbiting today, unfortunately, has become a norm between almost everybody. You know what? This person is like this person is like that. The hadith of backbiting is clear that if you mention something, ذِكْرُكَ أَخَاكَ بِمَا يَكْرَهُ, you mention something of your fellow Muslim that they dislike. So you say that person is fat, that person is this, that person is that. That's ghiba. And Nawawi rahimahullah, he goes on to mention, when he explains the hadith, he says even making fun of people as well as their things, as well as astaghfirullah, may Allah forgive us, making fun of their speech, making fun of the way they walk, all this enters into that. Also, if you people read the tafsir of وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ, what's the meaning of humazatil lumazah? That's one of the meanings where you find a person that carries on poking fun at somebody. They make fun of them. So to summarize, we've got to be very careful when it comes to every single sin. A person's wishful thinking that Allah will forgive, forgetting the punishment at times leads people astray. So we've got to keep that balance. And later on, he mentions more ahadith, and inshallah we'll take them tomorrow, speaking about the masajid at the end of time, the scholars at the end of time, etc. Those viewers, we ask Allah to grant us goodness, beneficial knowledge, and inshallah we'll see you guys tomorrow. Anybody has anything to say? We can close up. Nothing? Okay. Yallah. Fi amanillah.